reached a point. I've reached a point in my life where I can't lose.
A few moments later.
I'm Michael Gottlieb on behalf of Mr. Watson.
Wesley Watson, motivational speaker, fitness guru, and now defendant out of Miami, Florida. Who could have predicted this? Oh, right, probably anybody that's seen any of his videos.
You guys are all fakes. I'm that guy.
Stop it. Get some help.
A lot of you guys were raised by very nerdy parents. I was raised by cool parents. My parents were cool. It made me cool.
Shut your mouth, mate.
All right, so today we're going to actually break down what really matters in Wes's case. What can actually be used against him in court? Because not every cringe video is evidence. Some of them are just unfortunate content.
You should sign up with me right away before you die. Straight up. Do you understand? I am massively famous.
This is #1 bullshit.
And my compliment means more than 99.9% of these out here.
Stop the cap. Stop the cap right now.
So we're going to break down exactly what can be admitted as evidence should this matter go to trial. And even if a plea is negotiated, what kind of evidence can be used at sentencing?
When it comes to being in shape, why do you guys gotta be told all this shit? It's not about having a great body. It's about operating at a higher frequency. F you guys.
No. Do not fuck me because I am you and then we would just be fucking ourselves.
So can they use his social media against him? If this goes to trial, and honestly it probably won't, but more on that in a sec, the court isn't going to sit down and binge watch Watson's YouTube channel like a Netflix series. Why? Because we have this thing called the rules of evidence. So because of the rules of evidence, only evidence that's relevant and probative gets in. Probative is just a fancy legal word for this piece of evidence actually helps prove something that he's charged with. Like if Wes posts a video saying, I'm going to punch this guy in the throat tomorrow, and then a guy gets punched in the throat, yeah, that's going to be probative. And as a general rule, with some limited exceptions, propensity evidence is not admissible. Now, what is propensity evidence? So propensity evidence is essentially saying because somebody's done something in the past, that automatically makes them guilty of something else. So it's using prior acts as evidence of his current guilt. An example, let's say there's a crackhead who's on trial for some crackhead activities, and they use some of their prior crackhead acts that they've done against them, right? So the law says you can't do that for the most part. So once a crackhead doesn't mean always a crackhead, right? So rules of evidence, again, this is if it goes to trial, would prohibit that. Now, how about those videos where he's challenging people to fight in the gym?
So every one of you guys that wants to call me out, 1625 North Miami Road, 1625 North Miami Road, 9 a.m. weekdays, 8 a.m. weekends. Follow me out of the parking lot, okay? And don't rat and handle your business. Follow me out of the gym. It will just be me.
Those are going to be potentially admissible. Why? Because the charge is aggravated assault, and he's out here telling strangers to throw hands at a 24-hour fitness. That might show intent or pattern of behavior, not propensity. But the other 300 videos of him being a general douchebag, not going to fly. The court doesn't care that he screams at his followers or talks about prison workouts in the rain. That's what we call prejudicial. It doesn't help prove anything relevant to the crime. It just makes him look like a douchebag. And unfortunately, just being a douchebag is not a crime.
Program is $6K a month, $15K for 3 months, $25,000 for 6 months, $40,000 for a year.
I'm allergic to scams.
If you think about how much it would cost you to advertise your coaching business or any product or service with Facebook ads or Instagram ads and Meta ads or YouTube ads, it would cost you $400,000. to get the outreach I'm going to give you by having you come work out with me post you on my story, you be able to sell your product or service, me boosting you as you start to do some numbers in your business and proving that our concept of getting out there, the more hands you shake, the more money you make, is the only thing that matters. Nothing matters in this life right now, if you're running a business, more than how many people you can get your product or service in front of. When you're fat, your whole life sucks. Do you have to be told that that's low frequency? That's low everything. You're fat. Your life sucks. It's low everything. Low IQ, low frequency, low libido, low everything. Low on the fucking totem pole. Low as a man, low as a woman. Nobody wants to be fat. Okay? You don't want to be fat. I don't want you to live fat. I've been fat. That's how stupid are you people who think you're intelligent and you're walking around with a straight gumdrop shaped body?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
All right, what about his criminal history? So that's going to depend on if he takes the stand, which he won't. Then past certain convictions can come in to impeach or challenge his credibility. So if he goes up there, he opens the door to allow that to come in. Okay. Other than that, like I said, I don't anticipate his legal team bringing it up, obviously, or allowing him to testify. So if he doesn't testify, prior bad acts usually stay out because that whole propensity thing we talked about. Now, trial, again, I think it's very, very unlikely for a trial. So we're mostly looking at a plea deal. So again, just like in most cases, it's not going to go to a trial. Highly low rated trial nowadays, less than 2%. So it's likely going to end in a plea agreement. Now, there are two, let's call them flavors of plea agreements, okay? We have one plea agreement that says you're going to do exactly this amount of time. There's not going to be any surprises at sentencing. Now, that's the more uncommon. The more common of the two is option 2, where they provide a sentencing range plea. So they'll let you know you're going to be pleading guilty to this charge, and there'll be a range that you're eligible to serve. It could be anywhere from 1 to 3 years. It could be anywhere from 2.5 to 7 years. And that's the range that would be determined at sentencing. So if he pleads guilty, for example, to 1 count of aggravated assault, the judge then decides where on that range he would fall. Oh, the pre-sentence report, aka Wes getting interviewed by a probation officer. So before sentencing, and again, this would happen regardless of a trial or a plea agreement, he'll go through something called a pre-sentence interview. Basically, a probation officer interviews him and writes a report for the judge. And it gets weirdly personal, right? There's going to be standard questions. How was your family life? How did you grow up? Have you ever used drugs? How often do you use alcohol? If you do, what drugs have you used? A lot of sort of the standard questions you may assume, but then it's got some weird ones. It'll ask questions, something like, if crime were legal, if you knew you could get away with a crime, would you commit it? Or other things like, do you think you have a bigger problem with alcohol or drugs than other people in the world? Very sort of ambiguous types of questions, and they call that the attitude section. And so that report, though, is going to end with that probation officer making a recommendation as to what they believe Wes should be sentenced to. Okay, so then that report that's conducted by that pre-sentence officer is submitted to the court prior to sentencing. And again, it is very important. Generally, most times the prosecutor is just going to piggyback off that recommendation. So it is an important recommendation. Now, can his attorney block some of this? How can his attorney limit his exposure during a pre-sentence interview? A good defense attorney would limit what he talks about in that interview. Personally, I never let my clients talk about the current offense or any of those weird attitude questions that they have. It's not we're not here for a personality quiz, so we're here to keep you out of prison. So I would presume that there are certain questions that they won't want him to answer, and again, that's perfectly normal. All right, and finally, sentencing day, which is probably going to be the most important day of this entire case. As sentencing, this is where good lawyers make their money, frankly, especially defense attorneys. At the sentencing hearing, this is basically what goes down, right? The prosecutor is going to make a recommendation. Most times it's going to piggyback off what that probation officer recommended. Then the defense attorney argues, obviously, for the lowest within that range that's already been agreed upon in the plea agreement. And the judge decides the fate between, those recommendations. So this is, again, where great lawyers shine and bad lawyers crash and burn. It's not really at this point about knowing the law. You've already had your client plead to the crime, so there's no questions as to the law. It's about humanizing your client, which is why I think this is going to be a big issue for Wes and his attorney at this point. Really humanizing your client and showing that they are worthy and deserving of another chance and are productive members of society. So the judge here, you'd hope can see the person and not his numerous videos, viral videos.
So you guys, this is literally how weird these people are. Their brains are mush. They think I color my beard. But sometimes I'm in lighting like this, where it just looks really black and dark. And then sometimes I'm in lighting like this, or I'm outside, so it has some lighter colors to it. If you are someone who needs to be told this type of shit, your brain is so f***ed. Like, you don't understand anything in life if you think that someone dyes their beard and you write someone about it.
So what happens to Wes Watson? That's going to depend on the plea deal, the pre-sentencing report, and how well his attorney can advocate for him at sentencing. Again, because I don't think that this is going to trial, the sentencing hearing will be the most pivotal hearing throughout this case. That's going to be really where his attorney is going to be able to either hopefully minimize his time in prison, or we could see an aggravated term and he could be there for quite a while. If I were to give any piece of advice to Wes here, it would be to start working on his "I'm deeply remorseful, Your Honor" face, because trust me, no weak shit isn't going to be a great legal defense, okay? Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think his lawyer's got a chance of humanizing Wes Watson? Or do you think he's screwed? And let me know what you would do if you were the judge in this case. Would you sentence him to an aggravated term towards the higher end? Or would you cut him some slack, given that maybe, there were very minimal elements of self-defense initially present before this went off the rails? Do you think the judge will see what he's brought to society as a net positive or net benefit? Because that's going to play a big factor at sentencing. Let me know what you guys think down below.
Pull me out of the gym. It will just be me.